I have 101 Apex Legends tips and tricks, and they're all in this one video. We got a few beginner tips and then a ton of high-level advanced tips to destroy the competition. I guarantee there will be information you never knew or that you need to be reminded of. Without wasting any time, our first tip lets you destroy Ash's portal. All you have to do is place the portal above a supply bin. Then when you open it up, the portal will disappear. This also works with Wraith's portal and could be an easy way to escape from enemies without them following you. Similar to Sheila, a charged up Rampage can break through doors simply by shooting them. Then this is especially handy with Ballistic since his ultimate will instantly charge up a Rampage. The Tempest ultimate will also instant charge a Sentinel, but then you're stuck with this school bus of an optic. Shoot downed enemies but leave them alive. This will cause their teammates to run in the open trying to save them, and most of the time it leaves you with an easy kill. However, if you want to eliminate the downed player, use a Thermite. It is much easier and there's almost nothing they could do to block the damage coming in from a Thermite. At the Phase Driver POI on Olympus, you can get infinite cargo bot. The cooldown is roughly 48 seconds, so you just have to wait it out and get some high level loot. Again, that's infinite cargo bot. So in this game, I activated the Phase Driver 15 times and was rewarded with 45 cargo bots and all of the high tier loot you could possibly wish for. But all the high tier loot in the world won't help if you fall into the trap of mindlessly aiming. To cut this out and get a lot of focus onto the game really quick, make a minor change in your settings. I highly recommend changing your reticle color or the damage indicators. Doesn't matter what you switch it to, these won't affect your gameplay too much, but it will cause you to pay more attention to your aim with something a little bit different than what you're used to. But good aim won't help if the enemies lock themselves in a building. Luckily for you, if you find enemies blocking these doorways across World's Edge, you can actually open them up towards you. All you need to do is try to get behind where the door swings and it will open up. If you're on mouse and keyboard, learn how to jitter aim and this will take away all recoil. Super simple, all you need to do is do very little shakes of your mouse while aiming and it will take away the recoil. I find that tensing and flexing my forearm muscles causes the shake while still allowing me to use my wrist to aim. It works best with automatic weapons and I don't find too much use from it when I use burst weapons. Then for you controller players, jitter aiming isn't realistic. Instead, you need to learn recoil smoothing to completely eliminate vertical recoil. So normally when you shoot, your recoil kicks up. But when you move your aim horizontally, the vertical recoil isn't there. Now for recoil smoothing, you abuse this mechanic by strafing in one direction while pulling your aim in the opposite direction. So if you're strafing right, pull your aim to the left and vice versa. I find this works best at close to medium range. It also works on mouse and keyboard, but it's a little bit more difficult to pull off because you have to be really smooth with your aim. You're probably used to using your teammates' knockdown shields as cover, but you also need to be using enemy bodies as cover more often. Really helpful when you're trying to heal during a fight. Pathfinder's ultimate gives him a 3x zoom, making it very easy to spot enemies off in the distance. Gibraltar's arm shield can be used to block grenades. And a secret trick I like to use with this mechanic is to throw them beside a door an enemy is holding. Then when the grenade blows up, it breaks the door and the enemies are never expecting this because they think you're going to take damage too, but your arm shield blocks it. Then if you're further away from a door, you can open it up by shooting the side with the door handle. Then you can also close the door using the same technique, but it doesn't work with every weapon. I tested them all out and the weapons up on the screen now are the ones that can move doors by shooting them. If you're experiencing frame rate issues, lower your FOV and it will increase your FPS. This is especially useful on console since you can't currently lower your visual settings. Then if an enemy is ever holding a door against you, be the first one to kick it. This often causes them to panic and they do one of two things. They either kick it back, and if you're paying attention it should be an easy kill, or they run away and you can shoot them in the back. Start a finisher, then quickly cancel it to force the enemy to drop their knockdown shield so you can eliminate them. It works really well with SMGs and shotguns. If you're ever stuck taking zone damage on Olympus or Stormpoint, place a heat shield under a trident. Then you can drive around without taking any zone damage. Switch from toggle to crouch over to hold the crouch. This allows you to crouch much faster and it makes a lot of movement techniques like bunny hopping or super gliding much easier. Then if you're on mouse and keyboard, set interact/pickup to your scroll wheel, and this will help make sure you can pick up items before your enemies. If you're ever stuck in the open, use Catalyst piercing spikes as cover. This works really well as people expect you to be an easy kill and it makes her a top tier pick. Learn the common hiding spots on the various maps and make sure you check them, especially in ranked where a lot of players rat for their rank. Try out aim training in the fighting ring. I followed Verhalt's aim routine for a week and my aim improved a ton. Doesn't have to be anything serious, just take a few minutes in the firing range before playing and your mechanics will be on another level. You can quickly destroy Rampart's walls or Newcastle's castle wall by punching it twice. This is much faster than shooting them and it makes less noise. You should mask your audio when you're reviving a teammate, running up to someone, or healing. All you need to do is use a throwable or legend ability to make enough sound so they can't hear you. Try to stay calm and collected, especially when you're the last player alive. If you stay calm, your enemies enemies will eventually make mistakes and you can make sure you capitalize off of them. Enemies also start to play stupid when you're the last player alive because they all want to get the kill for themselves. So you can see them making really poor decisions. A common misconception is that you can fire the hemlock faster in semi-auto with a good trigger finger than you can in burst mode. You will always fire faster in burst, even if your finger game is on point. Same goes with a single fire flatline and R301. These 100 tip videos take forever to make, so dropping like and subscribing would be greatly appreciated. Don't hesitate on using abilities. It is always better to use them and get little value than to get knocked without using them. Use open supply bins as cover. This is really effective, especially early in a match where you haven't locked down a building yet. Use a relatively slow sensitivity. Your aim will be much more consistent, and focusing on aim instead of movement is usually the better play. Having the best movement in the world isn't going to do much if you can't hit your shots. Don't throw grenades directly at enemies. They will easily run out of its radius. Instead, throw them into the sky so they land on top of them and blow up before they can run. Try to make sure your squad has one of each legend type so you can get the most out of their passive abilities. If you are quick enough, you can use evac towers to block Gibraltar's ultimate. The timing isn't very forgiving, so if you want to use this trick, either use an already placed evac tower or you have to have some really fast reaction time. Keep your sound effects volume at 100% all of the time, because this includes enemy footsteps volume and you need to be able to hear them as loud as possible. But if it is too loud, rather than lowering your sound effects volume, lower your master volume. Play aggressive but smart. You're probably familiar with getting absolutely destroyed by a good player when they full send you. It seems like there's almost nothing you can do. One of the main reasons pushing aggressively works so well is that it causes enemies to panic and make poor decisions. If you go the other way and play too slowly, all you're doing is letting the enemies come up with their own strategy and control the tempo of the fight. If the opportunity presents itself, do not hesitate to finish a down player for the armor swap. Use Octane Stim right before you finish healing to get the effects of the stim without the damage. Just be careful doing this while you're taking zone damage. If you have a grenade indicator on your screen, it doesn't necessarily mean you will take damage. The indicator range is larger than the blast radius, so you don't always need to run away and put yourself into a bad position just to avoid the grenade damage. Memorize how many of your legend abilities you can have out at once. For example, Caustic can have 6 gas traps, Catalyst can barricade 2 doors, and Rampart can have 5 amped covers out at once. Master the recoil patterns on your favorite weapons. Make sure you have impact marks turned on, then shoot a wall without controlling recoil. Then I suggest taking a picture of the pattern. Then to master your recoil, all you need to do is make the opposite movements in your aim as the impact marks you see. So if the recoil pushes to the right, then you have to move your aim to the left while firing. You can make Fuse's ultimate even better. To do this, shoot Fuse's motherload off of an evac tower. This will increase its circumference, and it is really helpful because you basically get wall hacks when enemies are stuck in the ring of fire. In the larger circumference means there's more area where you will get the wall hacks. But to be honest, even with this little trick, Fuse isn't that great. So if you made it this far in the video, comment buff Fuse. Focus on your biggest weakness of the big 3: mechanics, game sense, and mentality. We often get trapped in putting all of our time into what we are best at, then the other 2 will start to fall behind. Melee down teammates to move them quickly, get them behind cover or away from zone damage. But even better, you can use legend abilities to transport knocked teammates, such as Horizon's gravity lift or Octane's jump pad. Always be on the lookout for off angles enemies aren't expecting. You will often catch them off guard and get an easy knock on them. Horizon's gravity lift sets your accuracy to the hip fire accuracy of your weapon. So if you are on Horizon or have her on your team, you should prioritize using weapon with good hip fire aim, such as the Prowler with a laser sight. If you're about to get knocked down by zone damage and you have a gold knockdown shield, try to drop it so your teammates can use it and revive you with the additional health. For ring 1 and 2, if you're taking zone damage, start using your medkit when your health lines up with the top of the first shield bar. This will let you get the heals off in time, but also gives you a tiny bit of leeway in case you accidentally cancel the medkit. Drop armor swaps proactively. If you do this, you are guaranteeing yourself an extra 50 to 125 armor points, and it almost always makes for an easy 1v1 if an enemy decides to push you. Use your input to your advantage and abuse its strength. So for controller players, close range fights with submachine guns are going to be in your favor. Then for mouse and keyboard players, using a lot of movement and sticking to longer range engagements when possible will give you the advantage. If you get downed, please ping the enemy. As you see here, I probably never would have got this kill because the enemies are hiding in the smoke, but thanks to my teammate pinging them, I was able to find them and take them out. You might not want to hear this, but take breaks from the game. If you play for hours on end with no breaks, you're at risk from destroying your eyes or developing carpal tunnel, which nobody wants. There's really nothing wrong about playing the game a lot, but you need to be giving yourself enough rest time during those long sessions. If you aren't the best player, but you still want high kill games, do not land hot. Instead, drop closer to the outskirts of the map and push every other team along the outside. There is a much smaller chance that you get third-partied, and something you most likely haven't thought about is that the majority of the good players are landing in the center of the map. With these players in less common points of the map are almost always less experienced. If you use a controller, avoid sniper optics. And honestly, using iron sights would still be better than the sniper optics in most scenarios since they do not provide any aim assist whatsoever. For burst and full auto weapons, aim for the upper chest because most of the legends are the widest there. And if the recoil kicks up, you will get some easy headshot damage. Then for single fire weapons, really slow down and aim for the head. If there is no bullets left in your weapon and you're running low on ammo, do not reload. Instead, pick up the same weapon off the ground or from a death box. Team up with new or worse players from you and teach them the game. This will help strengthen your knowledge of the game, and if they ask questions, it will help you notice gaps in your knowledge. Throw an evac tower behind a building or a vertical piece of the environment. This will ensure that by the time the enemies see you going up the tower, you are already close to the top, so they won't be able to shoot you down. Even better, you can use Horizon's gravity lift before the evac tower is fully up, so you're already most of the way up by the time the enemies even notice you have an evac tower. And if you do use Horizon Tactical, it will give you a little boost when you hit the ground, which could be helpful if you find yourself landing on an enemy team. When going into the last handful of squads, look at how many squads are remaining in comparison to the amount of players alive. This will help you figure out if there are any solos or duos left, in which case they should be your first target. Abuse Bangalore if you're on mouse and keyboard, as control players have no aim assist in the smoke. Don't play scared of zone 1 or 2. You can survive while taking the zone damage for a long time, and you are better off staying in there and making a rotation than running out into a bad position. If you're practicing in the firing range, set the dummies to hard instead of full combat. The problem with full combat is that they tend to stand still way too often, but when they're hard, they will always be strafing. Then if you get low on health, instead of armor swapping or using heals, simply select the same legend you're already playing and you will go back to full health. If you have 2 weapons of the same ammo type but only 1 gold mag, put it on the weapon you are most likely to shoot first in a close range battle. If there is an enemy under you, throw a grenade at your feet so it rolls down and blows up on them. If you want to level up weapons fast and reach weapon mastery, keep your gun out as much as possible. A good chunk, or I would say even the majority of the weapon XP comes from just holding the weapon. What do you think of how the weapon XP system is right now? I wish they reward you more for kills and damage. Then it would also be cool to have some sort of weapon mastery skin once you reach level 100. Listen to the legends talking in game. They will give you important information, like if there's another squad, a team is landing on you, or if there's a grenade. Never take a Horizon gravity lift directly in front of someone. As you can see, it makes for a very easy kill as you're moving in one direction without any cover. Play on high ground as much as possible. It is hard for enemies to get up to high ground without taking a very predictable path or using their abilities. But if you need, you can always jump off high ground as you take no fall damage in Apex. Weapons have max headshot distances. For instance, the R99 has a max headshot range of 38 meters. After that, you will only receive body damage for headshots. Play no-fill duos to get used to playing at a disadvantage, and you will improve at the game really fast. Using 1 shield battery is actually faster than using 2 shield cells, and 1 med kit is faster than 2 syringes. So even with gold armor, you can still get use out of these meds. If there is no immediate threat, use shield cells instead of batteries. You want to be saving your shield bats until you need them, because they're harder to find, and being left without them makes fights much more difficult. After you knock an enemy, watch to see if they leave the game. In duos and trios, they do this quite often, and it gives you an easy armor swap to win the fight. In close range engagements, look at your enemy while shooting. Then in longer range engagements, look at your reticle while shooting. And this will give you the best accuracy possible. Shoot randomly if you want to fight enemies. Oftentimes, they will push you thinking you are low and put themselves into poor positions. Always pay attention to the kill feed to see which legends have their shields cracked so you know who to focus. Throw your throwables through windows before pushing a building. This will cause the enemies to panic and make mistakes. I've said this a ton of times, but people still don't know this. Loba can actually get more than 2 items using her black market. All you have to do is ping the item you want, then leave the black market and hold your ping input on the item. And you will see a white line. Follow this white line and it will take you directly to that item. Any legend can use this trick in her black market. If you run out of ammo in your weapon and have a gold mag or gold shotgun bolt, use Wraith's Tactical to go into the void to refill your ammo. For mid and long range weapons, you are more zoomed in with iron sights than you are with a 1x optic equipped. So a lot of the time, using iron sights is better than using 1x HCOG or 1x hollow. Legend abilities that require you to put your weapon away away take longer if you're holding a weapon or using a weapon without a stock. Ballistic ult stacks with legend abilities, and you can move at some crazy speeds, and the strafing speed of your legend makes it very difficult for enemies to shoot you. If you have a Pathfinder on your team, please stop scanning the care packages. Let Pathy do it so we can recharge his ultimate and reduce its cooldown. As Watson, you can use enemy Watson nodes to build your own fences. The really overpowered part about this is that the enemy's teammates won't be able to destroy the node, since the game actually treats it as a teammate's node. Use Valkyrie's ultimate instead of evac towers in tough situations. You will go up a lot faster, and it is much more difficult for enemies to shoot you down. But if you do end up taking evac towers or jump towers, make sure you let the Valkyrie go first. This will let her scan enemies so your team can make an informed decision on where they want to land. When a Mirage is reviving someone or someone is being revived in the smoke, hip fire weapon to deal damage in a large radius. Then once you do the damage, you can pinpoint where exactly the enemies are. In team fights or 1v1s, try to think from the enemy's perspective and ask yourself, what would I do if I was the enemy? And more often than not, the enemy will make that exact decision. You might hate it, but you should be shooting the flyers in the sky more often. They give you free damage on your Evo, which could easily win you more fights. To quickly relocate your team as Pathfinder, stick a zipline to a jump tower and then take it immediately after. If you think you might have time, start using shields right away. The first player to get their shields off in a 1v1 usually wins the fight, and you can always cancel the shields if you need to. If you ever find yourself above someone in Horizon's Gravity Lift or using Valkyrie's jetpack, stay as directly above them as possible. It is much harder for them to aim when they're looking directly up, so you can survive a lot longer. Then you can drop on top of them and get the kill. If you're trying to hide from enemies, stand still. Players are used to seeing moving targets all of the time, so when someone is standing still, they might look directly at them and still not notice a thing. If you want to go into third person mode, all you need to do is go into the back right corner of the firing range, go beside this rock, make sure your inventory is completely empty, crouch and look down, then switch legends and you'll be in third person mode. This is great for seeing what you look like to the enemies when you're doing certain movement tricks, so you know if you're being effective or not. Learn the loot patterns of your favorite landing spots, such as this building, which will always spawn a ton of sniper and marksman rifles. Save the boost on your trident for when you get shot at so you can make a swift escape. Don't be predictable. Look for alternate routes up buildings. The final tip is to really master your aim. But to do that, you need to watch this video of 12 aiming tips and tricks to go pro in Apex Legends. And thanks for watching. Let me know if you learned anything new.